question, the answer must be that there's no single silver bullet that will achieve this balanced outcome between growth, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability. What are really needed are strategies, national strategies that combine a set of different policies. First of all, policies that aim at reducing the gap between regions and territories that have persistent inequalities in both development opportunities and the well-being of the population. Differences in rates of economic growth, business startups, but also in poverty rate or inequality levels or gender inequalities or gaps, for example, in levels of pollution, land degradation, water contamination, and so forth. Closing these gaps is an important part of the answer, and for this we need regionally and territorially targeted policies aimed at reducing these gaps. The second set of policies are policies that stimulate and support the actions and the capacities of local actors in these regions and territories to undertake development. These policies typically will place a strong emphasis on hard investments, roads, development of clusters, school infrastructure, social infrastructure, electrification, and so on. Of course, these are very, very important investments, but perhaps in the long run, the biggest impact comes from programs within this set of policies that aim at the softer variables, of which two I think are critical. First, improving the quality of the institutional environment within these regions and territories. That is, the quality of the set of rules, formal and, very important, informal rules that structure the way in which people live and make their decisions. How easy it is for a business person to start a small firm. How easy it is for a worker to find a job. Policies, for example, having to do with the opportunities of women to participate in the economy, in politics, in local politics, in society. Rules, formal and informal, that dictate how easy or how difficult it is to circumvent environmental regulations or to actually have to follow these environmental regulations. The quality of the institutional environment at the local and regional development is something that is often overlooked when we think about regional or territorial development. But also another soft dimension is supporting the formation and the development of social coalitions, what we call social coalitions. That is, agreements, and these agreements can be tacit or explicit. Agreements between different social actors, between different stakeholders, if you wish. Agreements about what type of future they see, where would they like to be in the next 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, how they want to get there, what are the, let me call it, licit or illicit, not in a legal sense, but in the sense of being acceptable to them, and also legal, what are the licit means of achieving that future, and very, very important, how are they going to deal? How are they going to solve the trade-offs that they will find between objectives of economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability? Developing these social coalitions and shaping these agreements about development is something that takes time, and that is often a critical variable that public policies do not take into account. So those, I would say, are two very important sets of policies that frame within a coherent strategy can make a big difference in terms of achieving development patterns in which economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability are more or less in balance at the regional and territorial levels. if there are places in Latin America where such development patterns have actually occurred. Did we find in Latin America in our work places that have had reasonable levels of economic growth with progress in the social dimension and without making a mess and destroying the environment, but actually making sure that development is environmentally sustainable? And unfortunately, our results show that this outcome is very, very scarce, very rare. At best, 10%, we looked at 10,000 municipalities, and at best, 10% of them have achieved more or less this type of balanced outcome between economics, social, and environmental considerations or objectives. And we, of course, derive a lot of conclusions from the fact that this outcome is very scarce. There are powerful forces that prevent this from happening more frequently. However, perhaps more important, or as important as emphasizing how scarce they are and why they are so scarce and what that means for public policy, is emphasizing that these 10% shows that it is possible to have this type of outcome, that we don't need to wait for some future utopia to achieve this kind of development, that we can do it on this earth, now, here in this Latin America today. People have actually done it. Local societies have actually achieved economic growth with social inclusion and environmental sustainability. It's not the Garden of Eden. It's not perfect. It's not that they don't have any problems. Of course, for example, the region of Tungurahua in Ecuador, there's still poverty. The economy is still weak, and they do have environmental problems. But you do see a more balanced pattern of development. So because it is possible, therefore it is something that we can demand those who have power in the public sphere, but also in the private sector, to actually act in this direction.